A man and wife were both in an internet business, but it was the husband who truly lived, ate, and breathed computers. His wife finally realized how bad it had gotten when one day she was scratching his back, and he said, "No, not there. Scroll down a little." 2. A man goes into a pet shop to buy a parrot. The shop owner points to 3 identical-looking parrots on a perch and says, "The parrot on the left costs $500. "Why does the parrot cost so much?" asks the man. The owner says, "Well, the parrot knows how to use a computer." The man then asks about the next parrot and learns that it costs $1,000 because it can do everything the first parrot can do, plus it knows how to use the Unix operating system. Naturally, the increasingly startled man asks about the third parrot, only to be told that it costs $2,000. Needless to say, this begs the question, what can it do? To which the owner replies, "To be honest, I have never seen it do anything, but the other 2 call him boss."
Shy guy goes into a pub and sees a beautiful woman sitting at the bar. After an hour of gathering up his courage, he finally goes over to her and asks tentatively, Would you mind if I chatted with you for a while?" She responds by yelling, at the top of her voice, "No. I will not sleep with you." Everyone at the bar is now staring at them. Naturally, the guy is extremely embarrassed and slinks back to his table. After a few minutes, the woman walks over to him and apologizes. She smiles and says quietly, "I'm sorry if I embarrassed you. You see, I'm a psychology student and I'm studying how people respond to embarrassing situations." To this, the man responds at the top of his voice, "What do you mean?"
A Texan walks into a bar in Ireland and clears his voice to the crowd of drinkers. He says, "I hear you Irish are a bunch of hard drinkers. I'll give $500 American dollars to anybody in here who can drink 10 pints of Guinness back to back." The room is quiet, and no one takes up the Texan's offer. One man even leaves. 30 minutes later, the same gentleman who left shows back up and taps the Texan on the shoulder. "Is your bet still good?" asks the Irishman. The Texan says yes and asks the bartender to line up 10 pints of Guinness. Immediately the Irishman tears into all 10 of the pint glasses, drinking them all back to back. The other bar patrons cheer as the Texan sits in amazement. The Texan gives the Irishman the $500 and says, "If you don't mind me asking, where did you go for that 30 minutes you were gone?" The Irishman replies, "Oh, I had to go to the bar down the street to see if I could do it first."
One day a mom noticed that when her son was logging onto a favorite website, he typed a very long password. She asked him what it was, and he replied, "Mickey Minnie Goofy Pluto." She asked him why he would use such a password. "Because," he explained, "it says your password has to have at least 4 characters.
One day, a ragged individual stranded for several months on a small deserted island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean noticed a bottle lying in the sand with a piece of paper in it. Rushing to the bottle, he pulled out the cork and with shaking hands withdrew the message. "Due to lack of maintenance," he read, "we regretfully have found it necessary to cancel your email account." Arne and Peder decide to go ice fishing. They head out, find a nice spot, cut a hole in the ice, and stick in their poles. Suddenly, a loud voice booms from above. "There are no fish here." Arne and Peder look around, look at each other, and look up, and they don't see anyone. "I suppose we'd better move then," says Peder. They get up and find another spot on the ice, cut a hole, and stick in their poles with great hopes of fresh walleye. Once again, the voice booms from above. "There are no fish here." They look around, look at each other, then look up. Again, they don't see anyone. "We best find another spot," says Arne. So, they gather up their equipment, choose another promising spot on the ice, cut a hole, and stick in their poles. Once again, the loud voice booms from above. "There are no fish here." They look around, look at each other, then look up, again seeing no one. Peder calls out, "God, is that you?" The voice responds, "No. This is the skating rink manager." There are no fish here. A husband notices that his wife's hearing is deteriorating and decides to visit her doctor for advice. I can't speak to my wife directly as she might find it offensive, given our old age, he says to the doc. There's a simple trick you can try to determine her hearing, explains the doctor. Simply ask her a question at a distance, and if she doesn't hear you, move slightly closer and ask again until she does. That night, the husband arrives home and sees his wife in the kitchen cooking. He thinks to himself, what a perfect opportunity to test her hearing. He stands in the doorway of the kitchen and promptly asks, "What's for dinner, honey?" No answer. He moves closer. "What's for dinner, honey?" Still no answer. He moves even closer. "What's for dinner, honey?" Still his wife doesn't answer. He now sees how serious her hearing problem is. At this point, he is stood right next to his wife. "What's for dinner, honey?" "For the fourth time we're having chicken."
3 housewives got fed up of cooking. So the 3 wives, a British, a French and a Russian, decided not to cook for 3 days. At the end of the 3 days, they met again. The British said, "The first day I didn't see anything new, the second day he went to the kitchen and started cooking." The French said, "The first day I didn't see anything, the second day he took me to a restaurant." The Russian said, "The first day I didn't see anything, the second day I didn't see anything either, but the third day I could see a little bit with my left eye."
A blonde mom is cooking dinner when her blonde daughter walks in. The daughter asks, "Mom, why do people think we blondes are stupid?" Her mother replies, "I'll show you," and taps hard on the kitchen counter. Somewhat confused, the blonde daughter says, "Someone's at the door." The blonde mother laughs. "This is why people think we're stupid. Now watch over the stove for me while I answer the door." A man walked into a bar and bet the bartender he could amaze him. The bartender says, "I'll take that bet," and slaps down $20. The man reached into his pocket and pulls out a really small chef. This little chef starts cooking some food. The bartender says, "Wow, he's got to be less than a foot tall. I am amazed," and gives the man his 20. The bartender questions, "How did you get this little chef?" The man reaches into his other pocket and pulls out a lamp. "If you rub this lamp, a little genie will appear and you can ask it for anything," the man says. Exited, bartender rubs the lamp and says, "Genie, I want $1 million." The genie goes away and the man is confused. Nothing happened until suddenly the bar and the street outside starts flooding with $1 million. The bartender says, "What the man? Your genie is trash." The man replied with, "Oh, you really think I asked for a 10-inch cook?" An old man is traveling to a far-off land, but is arrested in a city named Runnia along the way. The townspeople of Runnia are convinced that he was the murderer of Bartheth, Bradley, the local butcher. Though there is not much evidence of the claim, a witness claims he saw the old man leave Bradley's shop on the night of the murder. The townspeople, who were always suspicious of strangers, considered this evidence solid enough to indict the old man. As the old man was traveling light, he did not have the coin to afford bail and was forced to stay in jail awaiting trial. The first night, they placed him in a cell surrounded by bananas. Every time he looked through the bars, there was a bushel of fresh bananas just out of reach. They waved tauntingly in front of him, and the smell of the fresh fruit filled his nostrils even as he slept. He couldn't wait to get his trial over with, so that he might eat a fresh banana on his first day as a free man. He asked the guard when he might be let free, but said guard was under strict orders not to talk to the prisoner, so the old man received no answer. The second day, the old man's trial began. The witness testified, but the old man held to his story of innocence. After the first day of his trial, the old man was brought to a cell surrounded by strawberries. The tantalizing red was again right out of reach, but he could see them hanging on the other side of his bars, and he could almost taste them. The sweet aroma caused him to call out to the guard once more, asking how he can prove his innocence so that he might pick a fresh strawberry from its vine. Again, the guard is silent. On the third day, upon waking up, the old man saw a steaming pot in front of his prison cell. Peeking down into it, he could see fresh meat simmering in a delicious stew, whose fragrance again caused a longing for freedom. The old man finally decided that he was finished. "This is how this crooked town gets to you," he thought to himself. "They dangle all this wonderful food in front of you, and they attack your senses until you submit." He walked silently with the guard to the courtroom, awaiting the next day of his trial. The next day he is brought to the courtroom once again. This time, when he testifies, he whimpers defeatedly that he was in fact the murderer, hoping for the psychological torture to finally end. Though the old man knew he had not killed the butcher Bradley, he was certain that the trial would drag on until he confessed. The audience in the courtroom cheers, and the jury quickly returns with a verdict of guilty. One townsman screams at the old man, exclaiming that Bradley was a good man, how could you do this to him? But the old man is undisturbed, even as he is brought to his new home, a cell without any morsel in sight. Finally, he has a good night's rest, without even a whiff of food to be found. As he wakes up, he walks over to his bars and spots the silent guard. He thinks of his trial, of the raging townspeople, and of his bad luck. He feels a rage burning up inside of him as he considers what a farce the whole process was, until he could no longer hold it in. "I can't believe this city, they force a confession out of you by dangling food in front of you. How can you call that justice?" He yells at the guard, figuring that he has nothing to lose. The guard, who was not about to stand by while the great city of Runnia was insulted by a murder, shouts back despite his orders of silence. "I don't know how you do justice where you are from, but in Runnia you are innocent until you are proven guilty." Hey there. I put a lot of effort into making these videos, so please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy. Thank you.